So we are reading the Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel, and we are on chapter on the third attention, page number 101 of the PDF.
In the moment when you master faith, you live your life in love, because love is what you are and it's wonderful. In that moment, you completely accept your body, your emotions, your life, your story. You respect yourself. You respect all of the artists, all of your brothers and sisters. You respect all of creation. You love yourself unconditionally, and you are not afraid to express your love, to say, I love you to others. When you master faith, when you live your life in love, you see your own love being reflected in every secondary character of your story. And you love every secondary character of your story unconditionally, just as you love yourself.
So what do you notice? You will notice only that you are resonating with. So if we can shift to being in faith, right, in being in trust, from controlling, which is the warrior's path, we shift to actually trusting. We shift from controlling to trusting. Then everything that we encounter through that trust, and that trust is equal to love. So if love is what we are resonating with, then that is what we are going to notice all around us all the time, right? And we will love everything that is there around us, and everything will love us back with that same vigor, I would say, because that's what you're resonating with.
This changes your relationship with the rest of the humans. It makes you completely impersonal. You don't need reasons to love someone or not to love someone. You don't even choose to love, because to love is your nature. Love is coming out of you like the light from the sun. All of your nature is coming out of you just as it is, without expectations. And your love has nothing to do with words in your head. There are no stories. It's an experience that we call communion, which means to have the same frequency, the same vibration as love. This is how you used to be before you learned to speak, before you have evolved from the whole deep hell of the dream of the first attention into a better dream, the dream of the second attention, until you dream the dream of the third attention, where you know that everything you are seeing, everything you are dreaming, is a virtual reality made by light.
So again, it's a state of being. You start shifting into a state of being of love. So you don't have to you don't have to love, right? You are love. That's the shift that he's talking about here. Now, when you're operating out of that love, that is the frequency that you're vibrating. And this is the vibration of energy that you experienced when you were born. A baby does not distinguish between X and Y. It'll love everyone equally, everything equally. There is no distinction in a baby's mind, right? So what he's clearly saying here, till we didn't start labeling things, we operated out of that genuine love. And naturally, when we started labeling things, we started becoming responsible for that label. And that's when the shifts started taking place. The desire to acquire. And then we shifted into becoming more aware of what we are thinking and doing. And then we shift into, when you go into spirituality more, you shift to the third attention, which is of a state of being of love. And you know that everything around you is actually Maya. It's a dream. It is not permanent. It is all labels that we've put, and everything is just made out of light.
For thousands of years, people have known that there are three worlds that exist within every human. In almost every philosophy and mythology, we find that people have divided everything into three worlds, but they have called them by different names and have used different symbols to describe them. As we have seen in the artist tradition, which means the Toltec, these three worlds are known as the dream of the first attention, the dream of the second attention, and the dream of the third attention. In Greece and Egypt, they were known as the underworld, the world, and the upper world. In the Christian tradition, they are known as hell, purgatory, and paradise.
So every tradition has these uh, three distinctions. In Hinduism also we have Patal Lok, Bhulok and Swarglok, right? So every tradition has these basically three distinctions of where we can exist.
The concept of the world that we have today is in many ways different than what people understood thousands of years ago. For them, the world was not the planet. The world was everything that we can perceive, everything that we know.
So again,
That
over here, this is important, right? Everything that we can perceive, right? So we can perceive a lot of things that may not be physically present, right? So if we can perceive it, then that technically exists for us. That is what we are talking about. Okay, expansion of awareness, expansion of perception all the time.
That is why it was said that every head is a world, because each of us creates an entire world in our head, and we live in that world.
So this is very important, right? All of us are creating our own reality and we are living in that reality. We live in a consensual reality, but the way that we perceive the reality is distinctively different between each one of us. So we actually are creating our own world in which we live.
The majority of humans live in the dream of the first attention, the underworld. Another large part of humanity lives in the dream of the second attention, the world of the warriors. And it's because of this dream that humanity is going in the right direction and evolving the way it is. We usually believe that the upper world is all about goodness and the underworld is all about fear and evil. But that's not exactly true. All three worlds exist within every human. We carry the underworld within us just as we carry the upper world within us. In the underworld, a whole infinity exists, and in the upper world, there also exists a whole infinity, and both meet in the world, which is where we live. The way to the underworld becomes a choice, just as the way to the upper world becomes a choice.
So basically what he's saying is, where are we paying our attention? Where are we noticing things? How are we noticing things? What is the state of being with which we are operating, right? That will take us to whichever world we are experiencing. So in the same moment in time, in the same space in physical matter reality, we can experience hell and we can experience heaven, right? How does it happen? Because of how the situation is occurring to us at that point in time.
In the dream of the masters, we are aware that to make a choice is to have a power in our hands. We control our whole dream by making choices. Every choice has consequences, and a dream master is aware of the consequences. Making a choice can open many doors and close many other doors. Not making a choice is also a choice that we can make. By making choices, we can master the art of dreaming and creating the most beautiful life.
So again, every moment in time, we have a choice. And this is something which came out very beautifully out of this process of making a choice, the four S's. So basically what is happening? We are moving in a timeline and then we come to a point And at that point, we have to make a choice. Now, if I make choice A, then I'll move here and I'll move on this timeline. If I make a choice B, I'll move here and move on the other timeline. Now, both timelines technically exist. Where we pay our attention, that is in which timeline we are there. So I was in this Gita talk. I think many of you have already heard this story. And Nagarji came out with the 4 S's. He said the 4 S's were Swata, Sahaj, Shresht, and Swikar. That is, Swata means everything, anything that comes by itself into your life. This is what he's also talking about when we are talking about the third attention, right? That in the third attention, everything comes into your life by itself. Sahaj, in that third attention, it's easy for you to do everything. And it is always for the highest good. And you have already accepted it. This is when we get into the flow, right? When we are in the third attention over here, what he's talking about, and all these 4 tenets are met, that is when we get into the flow. So by making a choice, we actually decide where we are going and where we are paying attention. And where attention goes, energy flows. So that is what will start to manifest in our life. So we have to be very clear about the choices that we are making and what is the state of consciousness with which we are making the choice.
Anybody can be a great dream artist, but the mastery comes when we have complete control over our dream, which means we recover control of our own attention. When we master the attention, we really master intent, which means we have complete control over our choices. The dream of our life is going to go wherever we want to take it.
So again, this is a very important point here, right? Where are we paying attention? Are we in control of what we are paying attention to, or it is happening spontaneously? So if we are not in control of where we are paying attention, our choices are bound to be off, right? Now, when we have complete attention, we can make better choices. We can direct the dream or direct our lives in a much better and more profound manner.
In the ordinary dream of the humans, the belief system controls the attention. And because our personal power, our will, is weak, anyone can hook our attention and insert an opinion in our mind. The will or its intent is the force that can move what exists or change the direction of what exists. The will is what holds the attention and moves the attention. Once we have enough power that we can use our will, we gain control of the attention. Then we can finally gain control of our beliefs and win the war for the control of our dream.
So most of the time, whatever we are doing is being driven unconsciously by our belief system. What are we paying attention to? It will depend on our belief system. So the moment we can become consciously aware that the driver of our attention is the belief system, we can circumvent it and take control of where we focus our attention. And all the choices that we make are dependent on our attention. So when we start taking control of that, we can gain control over our belief systems, and that way, and in that process, start directing our lives in the way that we want it, and it stops being driven by our belief systems. Otherwise, we are in reactionary mode, right? When we start taking control of our attention, we start to respond rather than react.
In the dream of the third attention, we are not putting our attention on life. We are life. We are the force. We are intent. And intent controls the attention. The dream of the third attention is the dream of pure intent. We become aware that we are life, not just as a concept, but as an action, as complete awareness. Now we can see with the eyes of truth, and this is a completely different point of view.
So again, where is the power coming from? It is coming from the force of intent. What is the intent behind every action determines what that action is all about, right? Now, when we go into expanded states of consciousness, which is calling over here the third attention, and we set an intent over there and then let it be, we allow the universal consciousness to work with us to manifest whatever the intent was. Of course, the intent being that it's always for the greater good, right? Once we get into that, we start getting into the flow and we see things very, very differently. We see everything around us in the way of a gestalt kind of a vision, not an individual kind of a vision, right? That is more about the victim mentality or the first, where we pay the first attention, where we are more selfish. Over here, there's no selfishness, right? We become the force when there is no selfishness, and our intent is what drives everything around us. So intent is very, very important. What is the intent with which we are looking at something or doing something?
The first time you learn how to dream, your belief system creates millions of little barriers to the truth. When the structure of your belief system is no longer there, you take away the barriers and you no longer see only one point of view.
So now this becomes interesting, right? The belief systems are totally driven by the ego mind, and the ego mind wants to protect itself. That is why it keeps putting these barriers for you to not be able to observe what truly is. So, and if you're looking at it from the ego mind, then it's a selfish mind. It is basically looking at itself. It's wanting to take care of itself. It is not working from the state of consciousness of wholeness, oneness, togetherness.
There are many points of view that you can see at the same time. You see yourself not just from the point of view of a human, but from the point of view of a force. You see yourself not just as a force, but as the manifestation of that force.
So again, over here in the book that we read, Power versus Force, right? Over there, he says that power is more powerful than force. Now, over here, what he's mentioning as force, he's actually meaning power as per the David Hawkins book, Power versus Force. Because when you're operating out of power, you're operating from a higher state of consciousness where manifestation can take place much easier than if you're working from a lower state of consciousness.
You see yourself not just as a force, but as the manifestation of that force. You know that you are light, that you are just an image in the light, and you use your attention to witness the dream from the point of view of light. You no longer see everything outside of you as if it's separate from you. You feel the totality of yourself in everything. You feel yourself as the only living being that exists, and you don't just feel it, you know it. As we said before, you understand what you are, but not with words. You don't need symbols. If you use symbols to understand what you are, you can get lost in the symbols while trying to understand yourself.
So again, you go into a state of oneness. We start living in that holographic universe where everything is interconnected and interrelated to everything else, right? And when you get into that state of consciousness, then the labeling goes away, the experiencing starts. And when you come out of that genuine experience, everything merges with everything else. You are no longer there. But if you want to understand it, that's why when we are going into these higher states, the higher focus levels, it becomes very difficult for people to explain what they experienced over there, right? Because you cannot put it in words. It's an experience that you have to experience. There is no other way to get to know those states of consciousness.
You call yourself a human, and perhaps you identify with that symbol. But in China, you're not a human. In Spain, you're not a human. In Germany, you're not a human. Human is just one symbol. And what is the meaning of that symbol? You could write an entire book and use thousands of symbols to describe the meaning of human, and still would leave something out. And it's just one symbol. Using symbols to understand what you are is nothing but nonsense. Whatever you think you are will never be the truth, because symbols are not the truth.
So again, everything is labeled differently in different parts of the world. So what that word means to one person may mean something totally different to another, right? So that's why it can never be the truth. Any symbol can never be the truth because it doesn't hold good under all circumstances. But when we are looking at truth, truth will hold good under every and each circumstances. There is no distinction to it. The truth is just truth, right? Over here, but a symbol can mean different things.
If you say to a cat, "Hey, you dog," it won't care, it won't answer back. If you say to a person, "Hey, you dog," that person will surely respond, "I'm not a dog." Some people may be offended and others may laugh. It will be tragic for some and comic for others, because we are dealing with different points of view. Do animals need to know the symbol for what they are? Well, they don't know and they don't care. They just are. They don't need symbols to justify their existence.
So they don't know, and they don't care. They just are, right? So when someone is, you can do what you want to that person will still be, because there is no wavering in their field. So an animal doesn't get affected by if you call the animal names. But we, because of the egocentric self, start getting affected when people call us names, right? So they exist because they exist, but we, because of the symbolism, have really confused ourselves in one way.
If someone asks me what I am, I can say I am a human being. I am a man. I am made out of energy. I am made out of matter. I am a father. I am a doctor. I can use symbols to identify what I am, to justify what I am, to try to understand myself. But the symbols don't mean anything really. The truth is, I don't know what I am. The only thing I know is that I am. I'm alive and you can touch me. I'm dreaming and I'm aware that I'm dreaming. Aside from that, nothing else is important, because everything else is just a story. Symbols will never tell me what I am or where I came from, and it's not important because I am going back there anyway. That's why one of my biggest heroes in the cartoon character Popeye the Sailor Man, who says, "I am what I am, and that's all that I am." That's wisdom. That's complete acceptance, which means complete respect for what I am, because I am truth. Maybe what I say is not truth, but I am truth, and it's the same with you.
So basically, aham brahmasmi, right? This is the basic thing that we need to connect with. I am.
You're alive, you do exist, that's true. But what are you? The truth is, you don't know. You only know what you believe you are. You know what you learned that you are. You know what you were told that you are. You know what you pretend to be. You know the way you wish to be seen by other people. And for you, it may be true. But is it really true that you are what you say you are? I don't think so. Whatever you say about yourself is just symbology, and it is completely distorted by your beliefs.
So we create our persona through our belief systems. I am fat, I am thin, I am tall, I am short, I am dark, I am fair, I am good, I am bad, etc., etc. But all this is basically symbolism, right? Ultimately, you are what you are. That's it.
When you finally see yourself without all the knowledge that you've accumulated, the result is I am. I am what I am. You are what you are. And the complete acceptance of whatever you are is what makes the difference. Once you completely accept what you are ready to enjoy life. There's no more judgment, no more guilt, no more shame, no more remorse.
So when you start accepting yourself completely, you are doing your best. You are not taking things personally. You are, uh, yeah, you are impeccable with your word, and you make no assumptions because you've accepted yourself. You accept everything and whatever is there around you for what it is. And once you do that, there will be no judgment. There'll be no guilt of any action. There'll be no shame because you are what you are. And there'll be no remorse also that I missed out this or I missed that. Whatever is happening is perfect.
When you leave symbols aside, what remains is the bare truth, pure and simple. You don't need to know what you are, and this is a huge revelation. You don't need to pretend to be what you are not. You can be completely authentic.
So
And
as soon as you drop the belief systems, right, you are what you are. There is no facade left at all. So you can become the genuine you and operate from that state of consciousness.
And because of that, you can deliver a message, and that message is the real you. Your presence is the message. It's the same presence you can feel when your first child is born and you finally hold it in your hands. You can feel the presence of the divinity in your hands without understanding anything, without any words.
So as soon as you drop the facade, you drop the pretense, right? You become your authentic self. And then when you are operating from that deep, authentic self, nothing needs to be said. Everything is understood. Everything becomes the is, right? So whatever you want to transmute and transmit automatically starts to get transmitted and transmuted. You feel this in the presence of some highly spiritual people. Okay, there's a stillness which is there around them, and then everything just is. You don't have to ask, you don't have to fight, you don't have to do anything. You just have to be. So their presence triggers within us also that presence of just being.
Every newborn baby has the same presence, it's God, the infinite, an angel incarnate, and we are programmed to react to the presence of a baby. The baby doesn't need to say a word. The presence of the baby says everything. Just its presence awakens the need to give, to protect. When it's your own baby, the instinct is even stronger, and then the presence is really something incredible. That presence awakens your generosity, and you just start giving to your child without expecting anything back until perhaps a certain point when your child grows up and it seems as if that presence was lost.
So as the child grows up, it starts engaging into the belief system and loses that presence, that innocence, that operation from love, right? That state of being which incorporates everything within itself. You can see that whenever you see a baby, you'll technically automatically start smiling. You'll automatically start caring. You don't have to make yourself do that. It will automatically happen because the baby's presence triggers that in you.
When you were born, your presence was enough to awaken an instinct in the people around you to give you attention, to protect you, to try to fulfill your needs. You still have that presence, but it has been repressed for a long time. It has been waiting to come out. To really feel your presence, you need to be completely aware. You need to see your whole creation from another point of view, from a place where everything is simple. When you're not aware, everything looks completely illogical and fear takes over and creates the big mitote.
So again, whenever we are operating from fear, we are operating from a belief system. Because when we are going into these expanded states of consciousness, there is nothing to fear. Because what are we experiencing, right? Everything is Maya, everything is light. So what is there to fear? Technically speaking, nothing exists. So if nothing exists, then there's nothing to fear. But now the point becomes that we all have that presence within us. We have that center within us, but it's been covered up by so much of rubbish that it doesn't shine through. So the moment we start connecting to that center within us, that presence will start to automatically shine through. And all of us are capable of achieving it. There is no reason why all of us can't achieve it.
The fifth agreement is an important part of recovering what you are because it uses the power of doubt to break all those spells you've been under. It's a very strong intent for you to use your magic to recover the presence that you lost a long time ago. When all of your attention is not on your story, you can see what is real. You can feel what is real.
So this is very important. When all of your attention is not on your story, most of the time we are operating from a self-centered kind of conscious awareness. We are not really caring about what is happening around us. We are simply caring and concerned about what is happening to us, right? When we start getting into that expanded state of the, over here, the third attention or the higher states of consciousness, then that individualism automatically starts to break. You start actually questioning what your belief systems are, whether they are still operational or not, whether they still work or not, or they need to be tweaked or they need to be discarded. So ultimately, like Robert Monroe always says, that we need to get out of the illusions. And the illusions are what? Are our belief systems. So we need to transcend our belief systems.
When you are not possessed by a symbology, you recover the presence you had when you were born, and the emotions of the people around you respond to your presence.
So again, symbology is the facade that we create, the belief systems. And when we drop the facade, you will find that people around you will also start to respond to you in that manner. In fact, I was doing a biofield tuning session for a young lady, and she was having major problems in her house. She was constantly getting into fights and bickering, etc., with all her family members. After we started doing the biofield tuning sessions and explained to her the perspective with which she was operating, when she changed her inner reality, her outer reality also started to shift. And she actually told me that people are talking to her in a much nicer manner, where previously they were constantly shouting and screaming and fighting with her. Now, what happened? She didn't change anything outside. Outside, everything was the same. But you changed the way that you were perceiving something, the way that a thing was occurring to you, and the whole game shifted, right? So when we shift our presence, then our entire world can also shift.
Then you give other people the only thing you really have, which is yourself, your presence, and that makes a huge difference. But this only happens when you become completely authentic.
So again, be impeccable with your word. Unless we are completely authentic with what we are, and we accept what we are not going to move forward in this work.
Just imagine becoming the way you used to be as a very young child, before you understood the meaning of any symbol, before knowledge took over your mind. When you recover your presence, you are just like a flower, just like the wind, just like the ocean, just like the sun, just like the light. Just you are just like you. There is nothing to justify. There is nothing to believe. You are here just to be for no reason.
So
You
you
have
shift from an a confused state to just a state of being. You just are. That's it. There is no argument, there's no discussion, no judgment, nothing. It's just pure presence.
you have no mission except to enjoy life, to be happy. The only thing you need is just to be the real you. Be authentic, be the presence, be happiness, be love, be joy, be yourself. That's the main point. That's wisdom.
So again, doing what you love, being what you love, right? Being yourself, totally dropping the facade, no pretense whatsoever. And then we touch that authenticity within us.
Those who are not yet wise are searching for perfection. They are searching for God. They're searching for heaven and trying to find it. Well, there's nothing to search for. It's already here. Everything is within you. You don't have to search for heaven. You are heaven right now. You don't have to search for happiness. You are happiness wherever you are. You don't have to search for the truth. You are the truth. You don't have to search for perfection. That's an illusion. You don't have to search for yourself. You never left yourself. You don't have to search for God. God never left you. God is always with you. You are always with yourself. If you don't see God everywhere, it's because your attention is focused on all those gods who really believe in, who you really believe in.
So again, you really have no search left. Having said that, in the beginning, it is important to search. It is important to get into the game, right? But ultimately, when you start reaching the pinnacle, you start to understand that all this is not important. The search is not important. The connection with your inner self is what this game is all about. But without experiencing the other side of the game, you'll never really understand this game of being, what this game of being actually is.
The presence of the infinite is everywhere. But if you're in darkness, you don't see what is there. You don't see it because you only see your own knowledge. You guide your creation through that dream. And when your knowledge can't explain what is happening in your life, you feel threatened. What you know is what you want to know, and whatever threatens your knowledge makes you feel insecure. But the moment will come when you realize that knowledge is nothing but a description of a dream.
So again, I repeat, right? It is important to go after knowledge. It is important to read. It is important to understand what is happening around you. But ultimately, again, whenever you reach that pinnacle of consciousness expansion, the knowledge also drops. You can't carry it with you, right? When you make that deep spiritual connection.
You are the unknowable. You are here just to be in this moment, in this dream. Being has nothing to do with knowledge. It's not about understanding. You don't need to understand. It's not about learning. You are here to unlearn, and that's it. Until one day you realize you know nothing. You only know what you believe, what you learn, just to find out that it wasn't the truth. Socrates, one of the greatest philosophers of all time, took his whole life to get to the point where he said, As for me, all I know is that I know nothing.
So ultimately, right, when we are looking at expansion of consciousness, we come to that state that although we know what we know, but it is actually nothing compared to what is available. So the moment we start understanding that, we can let go of the ego of our knowledge. And then when that happens, the surrender starts taking place. And then you can connect to that center of your being.
Becoming a seer, a new point of view. 2000 years ago, a great master said, "And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Well, now you know that the truth is what you are. The next step is to see the truth, to see what you are. Only then are you free. Free of what? Free of all the distortions in your knowledge, free of all the emotional drama that is the consequence of your belief of believing in lies. When the truth sets you free, the symbols you learned are no longer ruling your world. Then it's not about being right or wrong, or good or bad. It's not about being a winner or a loser. It's not about being young or old, beautiful or ugly. All that is over. It was nothing but symbols.
So again, our belief systems is what is driving us. And we've understood that the belief system is an illusion. The moment you become aware that it's an illusion, you put yourself in an empowered state to actually drop and transcend the illusion, which will ultimately take you into that state of consciousness again, which is of the third attention or into freedom, right? Because in that state of consciousness, all the facades, all the egocentrism, all that is totally dropped because you understand that all that was nothing but symbolism. It was just an illusion.
You'll know that you are totally free when you no longer have to be the you that you pretend to be. This freedom is profound. It's the freedom to be the real you, and it's the greatest gift that you can give yourself.
So again, most of us are carrying around a facade. I'm like this, I'm like that. Or I have to dress up like this, I have to dress up like that. If I go to this event, I need to be like that. That is not freedom. You're being directed by the belief system. When we start tapping into real freedom, then you don't care what you're wearing and how you're going or what you're doing. Again, there is a difference of being callous and being in freedom, right? When you go and you're operating out of freedom, you will automatically be decent. But when you operate from a lower state of consciousness, then also you're emulating that freedom, but it comes from a coarseness. It comes from the left side of the grid, not from the right side of the grid. Right. So the idea here is that to become free, you need to just be yourself.
Imagine living without fear, without judgment, without blame, without guilt, without shame. Imagine living your life without trying to please other people's point of view, and not even your own point of view according to your own book of law. Imagine how different your life would be if you lived with gratitude, love, loyalty, and justice, beginning with yourself.
So again, all these statements, love, gratitude, loyalty, justice, this is all operating from the right side of the grid. It is also operating above 200 on the scale of consciousness as per David Hawkins.
Just imagine the union between you and your body if you were completely loyal to your body, if you were completely grateful for your body, if you treated your body with justice. Imagine being yourself and not trying to convince anybody of anything. Imagine that just by being yourself, you are happy and that wherever you go, Heaven is going with you because you are heaven. Imagine living with this kind of freedom. Yes, the truth will set you free, but first, you need to see the truth.
So if heaven is going with you, you are heaven. Your presence is where heaven is. Then what do you need to work with? There is nothing else that you need to work with. And that is actually the truth. All of us are carrying heaven within us. We just need to tap into that state of consciousness, that state of feeling, which takes us into that state of bliss.
I want you to see if the story of you is the truth or is it not the truth. Just witness what is without any judgment, because whatever you're creating is perfect.
So we are all creating our own environments, and whatever is being created is actually perfect in that point in time or in that moment in time. So there is actually nothing to judge. But when we start judging, that is when we start creating a issue and a problem for ourselves.
Just witness what is without any judgment, because whatever you're creating is perfect. See your environment, the frame of your dream all around you. See your beliefs the way they're reflected in the story of your life. See where your attention is bringing your whole dream. I don't mean for you to think about it. I mean for you to see, and seeing is not thinking. Is it the truth?
So absolutely right. When you're thinking, you don't know what is right and what is wrong. But when you're actually perceiving it and actually embracing it, that's when the shift starts to happen.
Well, if it's not the truth, now you know that you don't have to believe it. Instead of believing, learn to see. What you believe, you distort right away according to your knowledge. But when you let go of knowledge and go beyond symbols, at a certain point in your life, you start to become a seer.
So now this is very important, right? Many times what we believe and we think that it is right can be mistaken. For example, I keep sharing this example where I had gone to do a Vastu visit in one person's house, and I found that the Siddha Satya, the way that we draw the Satya, it doesn't work in their house. In their house, only the Ulta Satya works, right? No, so now what do you think I went when I left that place? I told them keep using the Ulta Satya, don't worry about the Siddha Satya. Why? Because that is what was working for them. Now, if I was stuck in my symbolism, then I would never have been able to tell them that. The reason why, and this is the reason why when we go into anyone's environment, we go with a blank mind. We don't even take out the compass. First, we'll check the fields. What is the field telling us? We are wanting to see, we are wanting to observe what is happening rather than be, covered up. Our point of view be covered up by information of our belief systems. So that is how you learn to see. This is also something when you're using the one breath technique that we learn in the excursion workshop, when we are going into the higher states of focus 15, focus 21, focus 27, setting of agendas, setting of intent, creating patterns in those expanded states. It's all the job of a seer because you're not operating from your normal human egocentric consciousness state. You're going into an expanded state and then utilizing it.
A seer is a dreamer who has mastered the dream, who has learned to see. Artist, dreamer, messenger, seer. There are so many ways to name you. I prefer to call you an artist because your whole creation is a masterpiece of art. This is your chance to
So
see.
again over here, right? One who has learned to see can create art. What does this mean? That you can be a manifester. This is what our Rishi Munis and Gurus, etc. were. When they said something, it manifested. The reason was they were operating in that state of consciousness. They were actually the seers. They had learned it. That when they say something, it automatically starts to manifest because they are artists at the optimum level. They were epitome of artistry. So everything gets constructed like that.
This is your chance to see your creation, to see what is, to see the truth. But first, you have to let go of everything that is not truth, everything that is nothing but a superstition or lie. If you're willing to invite the truth, you will find that your story, whatever you say it is completely false. You know that the story of you is not the truth. You just need the courage to let go of what you are not, to let go of the past, to detach from your story because your story is not you. The moment you no longer believe all the lies that you have been telling yourself, you find out that it doesn't matter how painful it is. The truth is a million times better than believing in lies.
So again, whenever you observe something, you're observing it from a certain perspective, right? Now, maybe there is one incident which is taking place and there are 10 people who are actually observing the incident. If you ask what happened in the incident to all 10 of them, you will get 10 different descriptions of what happened, right? So ultimately, what is he saying over here? Whatever you are believing that is your story is actually not the truth, because someone else who was in that same situation would have perceived it totally differently. So is your story the truth? It is not, right? The moment you start understanding that it's only a perspective, it is not the real truth, you can start dropping your story, and then you will come to that stillness to where the truth, the real truth is actually available.
In any novel, in any movie or real life drama, the highest point of the story is the moment of truth. Before then, all the drama in the story is building and building. The tension keeps escalating until the truth arrives like a tidal wave and destroys all the lies. In the moment of crisis, the lies can't survive the presence of the truth and they disappear. There's no more tension. Peace returns with the truth, and we feel relieved that the drama is over.
So again, the drama is never the truth, right? So when you come to the climax of a movie, you come to the epitome of the movie and everything else collapses. Only that classic end game is what exists. And when we get into that, we, in every day in our lives, we can actually see this happening, that what are we focusing our attention on? Is it the truth or it is not the truth? But once the drama drops, we can connect with the truth.
Of course, when the truth arrives in your own story, everything you believe feels threatened. Fear takes over and says, "Help, the entire structure of my life, everything I've ever believed in, is falling apart. What am I going to do with all my lives? If I don't believe everything anymore, if I don't gossip anymore, I'll have nothing to say." Exactly. This is what I've been trying to tell you.
So, right, if you're not gossiping, if you're not making any assumption, then you have very little to speak. So, you will find that highly spiritual people speak very little. When they say something, they mean it, and then it manifests, right? So, that's the secret. Unnecessary talk is not something that we need to be doing. Last paragraph.
People ask me if I no longer believe all the symbols, if I take my faith out of every word, how can I communicate with anyone? How can I survive in life without the foundation of what I know? As you can see, the power of doubt is working in their minds, and it's even bigger than before.
So again, we need to doubt everything. We need to come to the core of everything that we are experiencing, that we are believing. That is what will ultimately create the shifts in our life. I think we can stop here today.